year. So from September through the end of May, they're always free to join, and we discuss all sorts of Montessori leadership topics. It's a free space for Montessori leaders to connect, to engage with one another, to find support. It's a very small niche community, but it's one that is really giving, really special. It's a pleasure to run these meetings for so long. Today, we're talking about supporting neurodivergent learners in our Montessori communities. This is a topic that we've discussed a couple of times, but it's always good to revisit and talk more about it because it's something that many schools are experiencing. It's important to make sure we have the proper training and resources to support all learners. Today's discussion is going to be led by Maria Chaffin. She's here to share a presentation with us and answer your questions. And throughout the call, if you have any questions or comments, you can unmute yourself or you can also use the chat. I will keep an eye on it so we can address questions as well throughout the presentation and hopefully have some time for Q&A at the end. All right, Maria, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you everyone for being here. And my name is Maria Chaffin. I have been working with neurodivergent students for over 25 years. And I have 15 years working in Montessori. I have a passion to combine both Montessori and working with neurodivergent. And I'm a believer on inclusion. I think taking the kid out of the classroom is going to do more harm than when we include and we do true inclusion. And that's something that I'm advocated and I have been doing for a long, long time. I own a school here in Sarasota, Florida, Seed of Life Montessori Academy. And the goal and the mission is to practice through inclusion. Teachers are not Montessori, are Montessori trained, but they are not a special need trained, meaning they have been working really hard in learning through me and through outside training about how to work with neurodivergent students. Why I share this? Because we don't need to be a special need teachers to be able to include and practice inclusion, because the Montessori environment and Montessori teachers are fully prepared and have all the tools and all the needs, everything to work with neurodivergent students. I'm going to share a presentation. Let me here. Okay. And I call it a Montessori teacher's secrets to inclusion success. Why? First, we need to know, and I don't want to go over and read the statistics, but I want you to know that the statistics are there. There are more kids diagnosed with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, sensory processing, emotional disturbance, meaning we have more kids in our classroom. And we need to remember too that after COVID, the increase in speech delayed and learning disabilities and things start going up, meaning we need to do something. The statistics are there. This is increasing. What we can do. The first thing that I invite you to do, and if you are an administrator, start with us, that we can pass this to our teachers. And if you're a teacher, remember that the work with the kid is not the kid, start with us. Meaning, we need to start thinking about those paradigms or those preconceptions that we have there that sometimes doesn't let us see the child as a whole. We need to start thinking about our values when we grow up, our cultural environment, things that they're instilled on us, that they're for a long, long time there, that sometimes we don't know. But unconscious don't let us see the child that is in front of us. Paradigms like misbehaving kids are being manipulated. We use that constantly, unconscious, no purpose, but it's there. Or he's just unmotivated. He doesn't want to do the work. He should know how to do it. Or we have punishment change bad behavior. The parents are not doing anything. Should be consequences. Or bad parenting is causing that children behave on this way. Children with disruptive behaviors are bad kids. People with autism are intellectual disabled. And like these paradigms, there's so many in about ADHD, about dyslexia, or about autism, because maybe we grew up watching a movie like a Rain Man, and we have that stock for us there, that was how autism looks like. Those things that are unconscious there, and we need to change them. We need to review ourselves to find that new paradigm ahead. That's why the work starts with us as school leaders, as teachers, what we're going to do with ourselves, how we're going to get rid of all those paradigms, how we're going to review ourselves and check. This is one of my favorite quotes, and I always share with teachers and everybody. When we let go of any preconceptions of what we think children are supposed to be or what work is supposed to look like, is when we open our minds and our eyes to a new vision. Difference is not only normal, difference is expected, and difference is celebrated. We begin to seek out the children that other people have left behind because they are too challenging. Because we know that children who challenge us the most need us the most. I want to invite you to go through this presentation to think about these skills that a special need teacher used to work with neurodivergent, but when you go to see the skills are the same skills that we use as a Montessori teacher. Because when I start working with Montessori and working with neurodivergent students, I start to think, okay, what skills I have, Maria, as a special need teacher, that Montessori teachers doesn't have. And I found out that they are the same skills. We have it. The tools are there. The first skill that we need is observation. But what I realized every time that I visit Montessori schools, I consult, or I'm talking with teachers, is that yes, we practice observation, but no with intention and not always, because we're so focused on teaching that we need to put those academics there. The kids need to learn that we left behind sometimes observation. We leave it aside. When observation has to be the foundation of everything that we're doing. Then we need another one that is relationships. For kids be able to learn, for our kids to be able to reach the learning brain, meaning that prefrontal cortex, we need to connect. We need connections and relationships. If we want to reach those kids with autism, with ADHD, gifted of twice exceptional, we need to be able to build relationship and connection. And to build those connections, we need to remember they're going to look different. That connection with that kid that you don't have issues, that doesn't have any problems in the classroom, they're going to look like different. What we can do and how we're going to build those connections through observation. Then we need to understand that we need acceptance. That when that kid feel that he belongs in the classroom, because you accept that condition, you accept the kid with the diagnosis or without the diagnosis, but you know something is going on. The kid doesn't have the diagnosis, but you accept the kid as it is, then we were closer to reach that learning brain. Oh, okay. Then we need knowledge. Yes, we're trained in Montessori. We know the philosophy. We know we have our albums. We know how to do the lesson, but we need knowledge beyond that because the kids are evolving, are changing, meaning we need knowledge not only in Montessori, but we need to know the new milestones in child development, how it's changing. We need to know about autism because we have kids with autism in the class. We need to know about ADHD and how the ADHD brain works. We need to learn about brain development and how the brain functions and how executive function skills work. Oh, okay. We need flexibility. That's one of the biggest skills that we do as a Montessori teacher, as a special need teacher. But sometimes, as a Montessori teacher, we forget that we need to be flexible. Flexible that the child is learning in a different way, that the lesson is not going to get to that kid in the way that I learned in my training, that maybe what I have been trying to do is not working anymore and I have to find a different way. And then we need to work in our expectations because the expectations have a big impact in our kids. Because if we work through all these skills, we're going to redefine success for our kids. Because success is going to look different in each child. Because our expectations cannot be the same for each child. Because we have the ability in Montessori to follow the child. And here is how we do it in the Montessori way. We do observation. We use the preparation of the teacher, meaning that relationships, that acceptance that start with us, and that knowledge. Then we have the preparation of the environment that go with the flexibility to observe and change, and that expectations that are going to be different for each child, meaning that child that is 5 years old, no, the 5 years old are going to learn to read or the numbers at the same time, because maybe they are at a different time. Follow the child. That follow the child is when we redefine success. Meaning, what a special need teacher use is what Montessori teachers have and learn from the beginning. I'm going to start with the expectations because teachers' expectations is what is the biggest impact in the students' learning. I remember that teacher, maybe when you were little, that impact you, that make a change of you. Because when you have one teacher in your life that believes in you as a child, that can change completely your path for a good or for bad. Meaning, there are research that support this. There are research that are telling us that how we see the child is going to impact the learning. If teachers think that a student is less capable, is going to like to be giving fewer opportunities, meaning it's on us that we have to start. That expectations are going to look different if we talk about elementary and we think about that the kids should be reading by this, doing this specific work by this age. Maybe for that kid looks like different. Maybe for that kid, that math work is going to look like different. And maybe we need to go down or maybe we need to go up. But cannot be all the first graders, all the second graders. Then we have preparation of the teacher. And we need to think that preparation of the teacher is not only the physical preparation or be there for the kid. And I love this quote from Maria Montessori. She said, an ordinary teacher cannot be transformed into a Montessori teacher, but must be created anew, having rid herself of pedagogical prejudices. The first step is self-preparation of the imagination. For a Montessori teacher, have to visualize a child who is not yet there, materially speaking, and must have faith in the child who will reveal himself through work. The different types of deviated children do not check the faith of this teacher, who sees a different type of child in the spiritual field and looks confidently for this self to show when attracted by a work that interests. She waits for the children to show signs of concentration. My favorite part said that the different type of deviated children do not shake the faith of this teacher. And sometimes we forget that. That's where preparation of the teacher starts, because the work with neurodivergent students is inside us, meaning we need to start working in fostering inner peace and emotional regulation within us. We want the kid to regulate. We want the kid, we're expecting sometimes that 5 and 6 years old know how to regulate. And we need to remember that the brain is still not developed for kids to be able to self-regulate. Kids need co-regulation. And to achieve that, teachers need to be in a state of calm, in serenity, in peace. But if a teacher is in fight or flight, because we're human beings and we feel it, and when we're in that state, we're not going to be able to regulate. And then we judge and say, but the kid doesn't want to regulate. Look at, he can't get out of that, he's angry, he's throwing stuff. He's not going to regulate because he needs the teacher to regulate. How we can translate this into a classroom? We need to, as teachers, start reflecting every day, daily reflection. Find your way. Some people do journaling and like to write and see what is happening in the classroom, what is not working, and how is your state affecting the classroom. Your ability to see yourself and see if it's working or no. Continuous learning, like I say, the knowledge, practice reading and techniques that help you to calm. Your ability to see when that kid is angry, throw himself on the floor, or is throwing things, or is fighting with the kid, that you don't get triggered by that, that you have the ability to stay in peace and calm, to be able to intervene. Because in the moment that our state change, we can help the child. We need to set time for observations, because when we observe without judgment and without intervening, unless it's dangerous, if something dangerous, you need to intervene. But if it's not, you need to step aside, because that is the moment that you're going to learn, oh, wow, this is why it's happening. That's why he's behaving like that. That's the moment that you're going to be able to see what is happening. And humility in practice. And that's a question that you should ask daily or weekly. Am I serving the child's need, or am serving my own expectations, my own needs as a teacher? Connections and relationships. When we prepare ourselves and we know we're in a state of calm, how the relationships are going to look like with these kids. How I'm going to connect with that kid with autism that doesn't do make eye contact to me, that doesn't want to play with me, that doesn't say anything. How the connections with that kid with ADHD that is jumping and can't stop moving, or that guy that kid that is shy, that doesn't want to talk. How those relationships are going to look like. What I'm going to do to build those relationships. I started doing research the last year, and I started doing a training, a certification in how to learn to use the polyvagal theory to understand and help more kids. I find out in that certification that the work was more for me than for the kids. What is a polyvagal theory? Is a way to understand your nervous system. Was developed by Dr. Steve Porks. Yes, and he explained how our autonomic nervous system drives behavior in response to perceived safety or threat. And he showed us that we have two nervous systems, the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system, and how we can be really happy right now, and out of the blue, something could be the smell and music, something happen around in our environment, and we go from that parasympathetic nervous system of calm immediately to fight or flight. And sometimes we don't notice, but we need to learn how to start noticing our nervous system. There are three, but there are the two big ones, and one is divided in two. We have the ventral vagal, that is that place where we're always in calm, safe, and social. We're connected with the environment, we're connected with ourselves. But that doesn't happen only for the teachers. We need to remember this is happening to the kids. Then we have the sympathetic nervous system, that is that when you are in fight or flight. Yes, when I feel in danger or when I'm stressed or anxious, that happened to you, that happened to the kids. And then you have the dorsal vagal, that is the same parasympathetic nervous system, is when you or the kid shut down, when the kid is overwhelmed and he withdraw. If we understand that these three nervous systems affect the child, and if the child that day have a fight in the morning with the parents, or that kid went through trauma, especially the kids that go through trauma, sometimes the nervous system stay in fight or flight and will not move out of there. Meaning a kid who is in fight or flight are not going to be able to reach the learning brain. That's why we need knowledge. Because if we can understand the brain and a kid that is with trauma, the kid that have low self-esteem, because having, especially kids with ADHD, have really low self-esteem because they always hear that they're lazy, that they are motivated, that they can't do it, that they never can finish. They can reach the learning brain. That's why we need to learn about executive functioning skills, because executive functioning skills is the ones that are here in our prefrontal cortex. And if we can understand that those skills are there and start developing from 3 years old all the way to 25 years old, meaning that 4 years old is just learning those skills. It's learning to be organized. It's learning to understand that the impulsivity of waiting, they can wait because they are learning those skills, that flexibility, the ability to be flexible, to organize, to understand that I have to wait, to understand time, is there in the prefrontal cortex. And they develop until they're 25. And those skills develop through repetition, constant repetition, and play. Because when we play and we have fun, we develop the learning brain. And to reach the learning brain, we need to feel safe. We need to learn about child development and what is the change after COVID. After COVID, all the milestones change, and our kids are different now in the classroom. We need to have knowledge on autism, ADHD, language delay, sensory processing. When we're learning, and if we want to understand these kids more deep, we need to understand that to reach the learning brain, kids need to feel safe, meaning they need to build connections and relationship with us. If that kid come to a classroom and have trauma or have ADHD and low self-esteem, is in constant fight or flight, that kid is not feeling safe, meaning that kid doesn't have the ability to learn. No matter how many times we try to present the lesson, it's not going to work, meaning we need to focus on connection and safety, connections and relationships to make the kid feel that they belong and they're safe. Because when they're safe and they belong, then they need movement, because need movement. If we don't move, kids at that age can't learn. They need to feel safe, they need to move, and then they need emotional engagement to reach that limbic brain. Engagement with peers, engagement with the environment, engagement with the teacher. When they feel emotional engaged is when they can reach the learning brain. And sometimes as teachers, we're so focused just on teaching, on reach that learning brain, that we forget that the kids need all that beginning, and that's why they are not learning. Preparation of the environment. We need to remember that it's not only the physical. Yes, we have to check the physical, the setting up, the space, how it's limit or no, but we need to work with the social environment that is grace and courtesy lessons. And those grace and courtesy lessons is all that executive function skills that we want to build on the kids. We want to bring that into grace and courtesy lessons. We want to work in our temporal environment that is all the visuals, the schedules, the routines, and the classroom management. I'm going to present to you two cases that you can see things how we do it here in Seed of Life and how we can use all those skills. Like, for example, a kid that have challenge in 4 language skills, yeah, have hyperactivity, meaning constant movement, problems with independence, need always constant redirection to tell them what to do, coordination, problems in challenging concentration and order. What actions we can take? And remember, when you have a kid and you apply all these ideas, that doesn't mean that the next kid is going to work the same, because there are no two kids that are neurodivergent that work in the same way. Meaning, we need actions in visual support, color code, traits, constant reference to support independent. Examples. He doesn't know where to put his things, never find the COVID, no matter what. We have the picture. I remember that time. We decided to put 2 papers inside. That was the only COVID that was green. Okay, let's find the green COVID. That helped me to find a way to independence in the morning. After a few months, he didn't need the paper anymore. We put it away. The picture on the wall, we have a line where kids, it's time to go outside and everyone have to line up. He couldn't be in the line. He always was outside the line. He couldn't follow the line, meaning at the beginning, we start using a picture of him where the line, you need to stand up. Then we didn't need it anymore. We didn't need the picture for all the kids. We need it for him. And when a kid asked, we just said, oh, because he needs a picture. You don't need to be and explain that much. We decided to use color tray, a color code trays, because he have a hard time going to a specific word. And when, no matter what, we put it in a visual word for him. When you said, what about you go and find a work that have a blue tray? The kid still have the choice, because there are so many blue trays, but was easy for him to go and find the blue tray. Then after a while, he didn't, because at the beginning, what was the goal? We want independence. At the beginning, we don't want learning academics. At the beginning, we want to be sure that the kid is able to go around the classroom and be independent. We found out with this kid that the language area has to be broken because the sandpaper letters were so many. And we found out that with that kid only, no, there are many kids that when they get all the letters in the box, was no way. We break the letters in small groups with the sound boxes next to them. And we found out that was better for the whole classroom. And we're still keeping it in that way. That's my friend. For example, another case could be kids that have challenge prioritizing. These girls have really high, big issues and challenge in working memory. Was a 5 years old, but couldn't pass from number 5 with autism. No way. We try again, present all the numbers with some paper numerals, with everything that you can imagine. She will not pass. Teacher was frustrated because she couldn't move on, meaning the expectations have to change. We cannot expect that Eleanor is going to learn like the other 5 years old. We're going down. We want Eleanor to learn how to write her name, to learn numbers 1 to 5, pretty low. And when you put the expectations low for that girl, when the girl achieves what you want, as a teacher, you get a little bump and you feel good. And then you hide your expectation again and you break down your expectations in small chunks. Action that we did, we use a lot of visuals and word plans. Yes, that she will know what to prioritize. We make a schedule for her. We will use timers to anticipate transitions. We guide through questions. We did a lot of social stories around the classroom and present to the whole classroom because this will benefit everyone, not only the girl that needed. Timers. In the classroom, we have timers for everybody and they're available, but different type of timers, from the ones that make sound, from the sound timers. Sound timer for kids with ADHD, they don't work. They pass next to them like nothing. They need something that is really visual or make a noise or vibrate. We use word plans, and the word plans at the beginning change. And we try different ones, from pictures like that and symbols to making it different for check marks. And I'm showing you here different kind of word plans that we have for everybody, for special neurodivergent students in the classroom. We have this picture represent, if you see that the teacher have a scarf in her lap, Eleanor couldn't understand how to wait to get the teacher's attention. She will go and call Miss Rosa, and Miss Rosa, and Miss Rosa, and no matter what we try to teach her, she will not wait. The scarf means that Miss Rosa was busy. She was not available. Every time that she saw the scarf in Miss Rosa, she knew she had to wait. For her work, for the other kids, they didn't need it. The only thing that the teacher looked for was something visual. I met a teacher that one day she used a clip in her hair. Every time that her hair was up, meaning she was busy. She couldn't be interrupted. Something that helped the kid to know what you're expecting. We went from numbers 1 to 5 to additions later. And when the teacher got to that point, the feeling of you as a teacher, the success that you get is bigger, and you feel better than when you are doing that to other kids, because it was so much work that you put there that you feel that big pump and give you a lot of hope. This is other type of visual schedules that you can find everywhere, that you can make your own, and the kid can still making the choice, because if you see they have Velcro, you can remove them, meaning you can give them the choice of the kid, what you want to do. But sometimes kids with autism and ADHD, they need something to guide them through the day that is easy for them. Sometimes you need to go beyond that, and kids with autism need to know when they get stuck in something, what you need to do first, what you need to do then. And you use those two words are really important. Here is the example of the choices. You can put a container and they can choose, oh, I don't have this for everybody. This is for the kids that they need. And you can let the kids to try, and you're going to realize that the kids that they don't need it, they will not use it. They will try one time because it's new, but they will not need it later. Let me see if I can. Oh. What I want to show you there is the little birds that are next to her that you're going to see in the next picture. Those little gummy bears, that was the name that she put to that, was my only way to engage her with the work. She has a speech delay with a learning disability. She came to a classroom and she couldn't talk. In 6 months, because she's around kids that are talking all day, she's be able to express herself and communicate. Her speech is still not good. But did you know what I discovered? That she can read. Not aloud, but she can read, because now she's doing the whole alphabet, the cars by herself. But I didn't say she couldn't because she has a speech delay. I just pushed her because I knew she could do it. But I used those gummy bears to connect her. And now she doesn't use it anymore, meaning that's flexibility, something that were not usually used in Montessori, but that was something that she liked. I use it. And if the kid is some trucks, maybe I will pull some trucks, because that was only for her. Finding the different ways to do it, that's being flexible. And that's what Maria Montessori said, how we're going to follow the child. And this can be done at the same time in elementary. There are so many visuals that you can use. You can do it by day, you can do it by week. But I want to share this one with you, especially for elementary. I didn't do this. Many years ago, my son's teacher did this for a kid that has autism, and he was a sixth grader. He was so bright, and he knew everything. He knew the lessons, he knew what to do. The problem is every day you need to tell him what to do. Every day. And one day Miss Jackie came and said, did you know, I'm going to write it down. And I was not working with her. I saw one day visiting my son what the kid have, and said, oh, wow. Yes, I wrote it down, everything. What he have to do on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday. And he knew what to do. He knew how to do the lessons. He was bright, but he couldn't without the teacher next to telling him. She put it all in paper. She laminated and gave it to him. And that changed the world for the teacher that didn't have to be there all day, and for the kid because he was being independent. Meaning I took that picture that day. I would love to have more pictures of the whole thing that she did. But I was so surprised that I am still keeping that picture with that. I think we something else that I wanna, with this picture I wanna show you, is this kid came to my school 4 years ago with from a special needs school for autism. The parents want him to come to a regular school. The progress report said that he was at second grade level or lower, and he was going to a fourth grade. It's really low. We invite him for a shadow. He came, Miss Jackie saw him, And she said, yes, I want to do it. He's fine. He can stay. He stayed. What we discovered after 4 or 5 months is that he was not in a second grade. He was he was going to fifth grade, sorry. He was in a fourth grade level. He was able to read fine. He was doing all that. He was behind, but not to a second grade. Why that happened? Because he was in a school that were all kids with autism. The classroom that he was all non-verbal kids. He was acting and he was doing what all those kids were doing. When he came here in 4 months, that kid was on a fourth grade level. Alexander is graduating, yesterday graduated from middle school. He did it regular. He did, we have a middle school through Bridgman Montessori school, and he did all his program online. He graduated with B's and C's on level, meaning that kid with that report in another school will go and say no, he's a no. Because the teacher have a little hope and said he can do it was a surprise. And imagine for the parents the feeling that my kid now is talking and my kid is doing all these beautiful things. Other thing that is really important for neurodivergence, and if you have kids with trauma, do you have a mascot? Animals. Doesn't have to be a dog, but this is Meatball. Meatball is part of Seed of Life, and the main goal of Meatball is to help those kids that struggle the most. And use those mascots that you have in the school for those kids that withdraw, for those kids that have anger issues. Dogs, animals help a lot. How we're going to redefine success? We need to share feedback always. We need to understand and observe the child's needs. We need to consistent routine and structure, meaning we have it in Montessori, but some kids that the structure and have routine are going to need visuals, and they're okay, are going to need checklists, and they're okay. And remember that you as an adult, I promise you, you have a checklist, you have a notebook, you have an agenda next to you as an administrator, because you can't keep up sometimes with the work. But if we need it, they need it more. Connect with the child's interests, meaning connections and relationships. Embrace their personality and be sure that they belong, because inclusion is not the kid being in the classroom. Inclusion is that the kid belong in the school. Support learning, meaning be flexible and strengthen social experiences. And remember always that we have the skills that a Montessori teacher and a special needs teacher needs. And I want you to keep in mind that if your nervous system is in a state of fight or flight, never intervene. Get out of the classroom. Go find your technique to bring the calm, because you are the adult, not the kid. And then intervene, because you need to co-regulate. Never embarrass a child in front of others. Always get to the level of the child. You are the one who have to make eye contact, not the child. Remember that there are kids that they can't make eye contact, and that's okay. Be firm and clear, but kind and love. Because remember, we start with love to build connections. Be less words and more action. Because we tend to talk a lot, and especially if we're elementary. Talk a lot, no. Because they don't have that attention span to listen to all the things that we have to say. Let's reflect. How was your time when you were in the school? Was hard? Who helped you? What they did? Because if we start reflecting in our school time and in our paradigms, it's going to help us. And I always have a follow word that is connect, communicate, and relate. I always tell my teachers in the school, when things are going crazy, raucous, that classroom is not working and everyone is angry because those things happen. Stop teaching. Stop teaching. No academics. Go back to the beginning. Go play with the kids. Go have fun with the kids and connect. When I stop sharing, because if we connect with the kids, then the learning is going to come back. And thank you. We can open, I think we have time for questions.
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself. You can raise your hand or you can drop any questions in the chat.
Hey, sorry, this is Julie from Knox Academy. I have a question. How do we access this to attend? How do we access this recording for later?
So I can answer that. That's going to be on the Nido Marketing YouTube channel. So I will publish this recording on there later today. If you want to review it or share it, anyone can access it.
I could not remember. It's been a little while since we've spoke, but yeah, good.
I'll share the link to our channel in the chat in a second.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions?
How long will the recording be up and available?
We keep all of ours up. Like we've had our town hall since 2020 and they're all available on our YouTube channel. So we're not going to be taking it down.
So I'm unfamiliar with where you're going to put this. Is there an easy way to get to where you're saying?
Yes, yeah. I'm going to share the link to our YouTube channel in the chat.
Okay. Thank you.
I just left it there. That's our YouTube channel. We upload all of our town hall recordings there. You can subscribe because we have these pretty much weekly throughout the academic year, and all of our past recordings are there and they're always accessible. Any other questions, or does someone want to share an experience or an observation related to today's topic?
Hi, Maria. I did have a question. I was just curious if any of the work that you do and these type of discussions are being incorporated into the teacher education programs with AMI or AMS, because it does seem like this all makes a lot of sense, but when teachers come out of their training and, you know, they're really set on following those albums, it's hard for them to kind of think outside the box. They just know that that perfect presentation is done this way. And I'm just really curious because I know I did my Montessori training like almost 30 years ago, and you know, there was really no discussion at all about children with special needs or how to adapt lessons. So I'm just curious if any of this is being incorporated into the current trainings.
I'm not sure, but when I did my training as well, I learned what was a special need a little, but no like that. What I find out that through AMS and AMI as well, you have endorsement, but not the teacher training. That's a discussion that I always, if you follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram, I'm always posting there because that should be in the training, no endorsement. That's why I do training for teachers and it's specific in what they need to do, because it's not there in the trainings. It's outside. That's why I always said we need the knowledge. We need to look at ourselves because we can wait because the kids are there and it's not going to change. We just need to adapt. It's a teacher who have to adapt to the kids.
I have another question. So are you seeing more children with ADHD, all those other things that children have in a Montessori school than in a public school?
In both. I'm seeing in Montessori schools, there are more because the parents, when you have a child with ADHD or autism or dyslexia, you want a small environment. You want an environment is holistic, that focus on the child, that have time for one-on-one. When you read Montessori online, say follow the child's needs, you go to Montessori. But then I'm seeing too that there are a lot of Montessori schools that when the kids come with the diagnosis in hand, they say no. That's why a lot of parents tend to hide it, because if not, the child will not accept it. That's why parents are scared of sharing diagnosis, because they're going to be judged. And as a person with a special, I'm ADHD, and as a parent with a kid with ADHD, yes, it's a battle at home, meaning it's going to be a battle at the school. I'm not going to share all the details if you are not going to trust me and work together. But it's not going to change. That's why I say it's going to be more and more kids, and the kids are changing too. We need to think about COVID, and we need to think about the increase of screen time. Kids are from 0 to 3 are spending more time in the screen instead of on the floor playing, meaning they're going to come with motor delays, with a speech delay, because the parents are not giving what they need, meaning we need to adapt for what is going on and not pull the kid out, because the kid with a speech delay is going to need those kids that talk to listen, to learn. We cannot isolate them with nonverbal, because they are not going to learn to talk. Any other questions? And remember that the work starts with us, with the administrators and with the teachers. And that's something that I hear before we close, is how the administration can support the teachers. Because I try with more training, with more observation inside the classroom, because we could go and observe and see how we can support. Walking inside the class, spend more time with our teachers, that we can really see what they need. And sometimes it's no extra body. Sometimes it's more training, and more, you're doing well. Do you need to breathe? Do you need a coffee? If we take care of that nervous system of our teachers, we are going to ensure that the kids are going to be better.
We have a question here in the chat.
What about students who are unsafe and aggressive towards other in Montessori private school setting? I have a lot of those. It depends on the student. Yes, remember this case by case. But at the beginning, through observation, we can see why the kid is aggressive. We need partner with the parents to see the aggression, why the aggression is coming. We need to prepare the classroom and work with the classroom to help. We're helping this friend, what we can do when the kid is throwing things or doing something, how we or remove the kids, or we will remove the classroom, but without putting the kid that is a problem, showing the other kids that the kid is learning and we need to help them. And he will find a way, because if we prepare the other side, we're creating more human beings there with more compassion and understanding. But sometimes we're scared to share with the other kids, and we can't share with the other kids. And they learn, especially elementary. With the little ones, you change the basic. need help, he's learning, we need to move away. With the older kids, you can be more specific and talk about autism and talk about ADHD and talk about how the brains are different. And they start being more human, more kind.
Any other questions or comments before we wrap up? All right. Thank you so much, Maria, for your presentation. I think a lot of people found it helpful. You're getting lots of thank yous in the chat. As I mentioned, this will be posted on our YouTube channel. I'll also share it with Maria. And hopefully we'll see you guys next week. Next week is our final Montessori Leadership Town Hall of this academic year. Then we go on our summer break. And next week, we're going to be discussing exit strategies. So we'll be joined by Donna DeHusselter. She recently sold her Montessori school, and she'll be talking a little bit about that experience. It's kind of an open forum if you are planning to do this in the future, or maybe you're just planning to exit your role as leadership, or you want to think far ahead. Maybe you're not ready to, but you want to have, hear from an expert who has gone through the process. You're welcome to join next week's conversation. I'll post the link to record that. You can go to the same, and I'll share the link here. Our town halls, you can always register for them here. I usually update the link on Thursday or Friday morning to reveal the topic of the following week. So you can always reference that. They're always free to join. So if you want to join next week, we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks again, Maria, for your wonderful presentation and your time and expertise.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your Thursday.